On July 18, 2026, at around 2 in the morning, residents of Elektrostal, a quiet industrial city just east of Moscow, were jolted awake by a sound they'd only heard on the news before. Ukrainian long-range attack drones slammed into a 250,000 square meter building, one of the largest logistics centers in all of Russia. Within minutes, the structure was engulfed in a fire so massive that the glow could be seen from Moscow's outer ring road. By morning, the building was gone. So was everything inside it. That building belonged to Wildberries, Russia's largest online marketplace, the company Russians call their Amazon. What do you think this changes about the war? Drop your answer in the comments as we go, because the answer is more complicated than it looks. And it was just the beginning. Over the next 17 days, Ukrainian drones systematically struck at least 18 Wildberries warehouses across Russia. Elektrostal, Kotovsk, Krasnodar, Nevinomysk, St. Petersburg, hit twice, Yekaterinburg, Simferopol, Podolsk, Ryazan, Volgograd, Samara, Vladimir. City after city, warehouse after warehouse, the same pattern. Drones arriving in the early hours, impact, fire, and then footage on Russian social media of towering columns of black smoke rising over smoldering ruins the size of football stadiums. By August 3rd, Data Insight, one of Russia's leading e-commerce analytics firms, calculated that Ukrainian forces had damaged or destroyed between 1.2 and 1.47 million square meters of Wildberries warehouse infrastructure, somewhere between 17% and 22% of the company's entire logistics network. Forbes Russia, working with the same analysts, estimated that sellers' losses alone had reached 215 to 280 billion rubles, roughly $2.07 to $3.05 billion. Not Wildberries' losses. The sellers' losses. The hundreds of thousands of small and mid-sized Russian entrepreneurs who stored their inventory inside those walls. And here's the detail that turns a military story into an economic catastrophe. Almost none of them will be compensated. 11 days before the first strike, on July 7th, Wildberries quietly amended the terms of its seller agreement. The new language classified drone attacks, shelling, and military actions as force majeure, events beyond the company's control for which it bears no liability. The change was retroactive. It applied to goods the company had already accepted for storage. Sellers who had shipped their inventory to Wildberries warehouses weeks or months earlier woke up to discover that the platform had legally absolved itself of any obligation to replace what was about to be destroyed. It's worth noting the corporate backdrop here. Wildberries had completed its merger with Rus Group, the Russian outdoor advertising conglomerate, in 2024. A deal that required Kremlin approval and reshaped the company's ownership structure. The combined entity, rebranded as WB Group, was now a sprawling conglomerate with even deeper ties to Russia's political economy. That context matters when you're trying to understand why the Russian state hasn't stepped in to force compensation. When the strikes came, Russian sellers took to social media in waves. Videos appeared of entrepreneurs in tears, describing businesses they'd built over years, wiped out in a single night. One woman, a clothing manufacturer from a small Russian city, stared into her phone camera and said she'd lost her entire seasonal inventory. $300,000 worth of winter coats and jackets, stored in the Krasnodar warehouse. She had no insurance, no savings large enough to restock. No legal recourse against Wildberries. She wasn't alone. Denis Vetrenikov, CEO of SellerDen, told Forbes Russia that the number of affected business people could run into the hundreds of thousands. The insurance question made everything worse. Wildberries founder Tatyana Kim, Russia's richest woman, with a fortune built on the platform she created, publicly stated that the warehouses were insured, but 4 major Russian insurance companies immediately contradicted her, Sogaz, Alfastrakovani, Ingostrock, and Soglasy all confirmed they did not insure Wildberries facilities. And even for warehouses that did carry policies, market participants confirmed that standard Russian commercial insurance does not cover damage from drone attacks or military operations. War exclusion clauses, the same language buried in policies worldwide, simply remove that risk from coverage entirely. After the first wave of attacks, Wildberries announced a compensation program. By late July, the company reported paying out more than 40 million rubles, roughly $500,000. Against estimated losses of $3.05 billions, that's a rounding error. And even those payments went only to small companies and individual entrepreneurs. Large sellers, the ones who accounted for the bulk of the stored inventory, were told that compensation was not even being discussed at this time. Ukraine's justification was direct. President Zelensky stated that Wildberries warehouses were used to store and distribute sanctioned components for military drones and navigation equipment, making them legitimate military targets. The European Union appeared to agree, at least in part. In July, the EU sanctioned Wildberries' banking arm, WB Bank, formerly operating under the VTB Bank ecosystem, over its financial contribution to Russia's state budget. And a quick search of Wildberries' own website confirmed that the platform listed military equipment for sale, including drone components and body armor. But the strategic calculus goes far beyond what's inside any individual warehouse. What Ukraine did to Wildberries is what it has already done to Russia's oil refineries, applied the logic of precision economic warfare to a civilian economic system that Russia cannot easily repair. This is economic warfare doctrine in its most evolved form. Don't target the financial system directly. Target the infrastructure that the financial system depends on. Wildberries processes roughly 7 million orders per day. It is the logistics backbone of Russian e-commerce. When you destroy 17 to 22% of that backbone in less than 3 weeks, you don't just burn inventory, you disrupt supply chains. You force sellers to change how and where they store goods. You make every warehouse in Russia a potential target, and every entrepreneur who uses one a potential casualty. The Moscow Times reported that the strikes are already reshaping Russia's entire e-commerce landscape. After the attacks, every major Russian marketplace, Wildberries, Ozon, Yandex Market, and Mega Market, amended their seller contracts to exempt themselves from liability for goods destroyed by force majeure. The message to Russian sellers was unanimous. Your inventory is your risk. Experts warned of cascading consequences. Sellers who lost inventory are pulling back from marketplace fulfillment models, returning to self-storage and self-shipping, slower, more expensive, and less efficient. Product prices are rising as sellers factor in the cost of potential destruction. Some analysts predicted a partial retreat from e-commerce altogether, with consumers returning to brick-and-mortar retail, a reversal of a decade-long trend. Wildberries itself is scrambling for alternatives. Reports indicate the company is actively seeking logistics capacity in Kazakhstan, moving infrastructure outside Russia's borders to escape the drone threat. That's an extraordinary admission. Russia's largest retailer no longer trusts that it can safely operate warehouses inside its own country. The financial damage extends beyond the sellers. Data Insight estimated that restoring the destroyed warehouse infrastructure alone would cost between 62.5 and 80.8 billion rubles, before accounting for the inventory inside. For context, Wildberries' entire net profit in 2025 was 175 billion rubles. The destruction of the Elektrostal and Kotovsk warehouses alone, just the first 2 strikes, may have cost sellers an amount comparable to the company's annual profit. And the strikes haven't stopped. On August 2nd, drones hit a 178,600 square meter Wildberries hub in Russia's Samara region. On August 3rd, another facility was struck in Vladimir Oblast, with satellite imagery showing the Volgograd warehouse completely destroyed by fire. Each new strike pushes the damage figures higher, the insurance market further away, and Russian sellers deeper into a crisis that has no visible exit. 9 people have been killed in the strikes. More than 80 have been injured. These are real human costs. Warehouse workers, night shift employees, people doing ordinary jobs in buildings that became military targets. Their deaths are part of the calculus of this war, and they deserve to be acknowledged regardless of which side names the target. But the economic dimension is what makes this campaign historically significant. Ukraine has demonstrated that in modern warfare, you don't need to bomb a country's banks or seize its currency reserves to cripple its economy. You can burn its fulfillment centers. You can destroy the inventory of hundreds of thousands of small businesses in a single week. You can force an entire retail ecosystem to rewrite its contracts, relocate its infrastructure, and explain to millions of consumers why their orders aren't arriving. $3.5 billion in smoke. 17 to 22% of Russia's largest retailer destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs wiped out. 4 insurers, Sogaz, Alfa Strakovani, Ingostrak, and Soglasy, confirming they won't pay. And a company moving its warehouses to Kazakhstan because it no longer feels safe in Russia. That's what happens when a country's Amazon becomes a target. So, does this change the war? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this breakdown helped you see something the headlines missed, hit subscribe. We'll keep going deeper.